Hello everybody, let's talk about today lesson 3, operations with rational numbers. This is the lesson 3 for unit 1. So rational, I'm going to show you different ways and you can pick the one make more sense to you. Rational numbers include fractions, and most decimals. Okay, let's do calculating by hand, and then we will use a calculator obviously. Only when adding or subtracting decimals, make sure to always line up the decimal. So we have to line up always the decimal points. You don't have to do this if you are multiplying or dividing. Decimals. Only when adding or subtracting fractions, make sure to always find a common denominator. Remember we used to do in the previous video for the fractions, we have to do we were making equivalent fractions. So by multiplying or dividing, you can do the same thing or just find a common denominator. So only when adding or subtracting fractions, make sure to always find a common denominator. You don't have to do this if you are multiplying or dividing. Like we don't care about common denominator when we multiplying or dividing, because we don't look for like terms when we do divide and multiplication, dividing fractions. Okay, so these are all the examples, like whatever we just talked about on the top, and then I will go back and refer to whatever we have on the top, guys. 3.07 plus 25.9. If we are adding, without using a calculator, if we are adding decimals, what do? When we add or subtract decimal, make sure to always line up the decimals. So I'm going to line up the decimals. I have 3.07 and I'm going to line up that one, like the decimals exactly going on top of each other. I have 25 and I have 9. And since I don't have anything here, I can put 0 there, that's okay. And I'm adding these. 7 plus 0 is going to give me 7. 9 plus 0 is going to give me 9. Decimal goes as a decimal. 5, 6, 7, 8. 2 is going to go down. So 28.97 is my answer for this. Let's try this. Line up the decimal because I'm subtracting. So 97.3, and I have a decimal right there. I have 6 here and 5, 79. You see 79 on top of 79, I don't have any numbers. I can put zeros there and you're completely okay. And you're subtracting. So since 9 can subtract it from 0, so 0 has to borrow from the neighbor. This is the neighbor, and neighbor doesn't have anything, so this neighbor is going to borrow one from this 3, another one. So when I borrow this, it's going to give me 10. 10 subtract 9 is 1, and I already had 10 here. I already borrowed 1, so 9 subtract 7 is going to give me 2. Up here, since we borrowed 1, so it was 2. 2, I can't subtract 5 from 2, so 2 has to borrow. So when I borrow from 7, it's 12 subtract 5, which is giving me 7. Decimal is going to go as a decimal wherever the decimal was. This left 6. 6 and 6 is 0, and 9 is going to go down. So that's my answer. Now let's do this. Now if we are subtracting and all the denominators, numerator and denominators are different. There is no common denominator or common numerator. So you can change each one of them, like this fraction and that fraction, to equivalent fraction, like multiply top and bottom with something, multiply this top and bottom with something. But make sure the denominator stays the same when you multiply and find equivalent fraction. Or just find the least common denominator for 5 and 2, which is 10. Right? Or maybe I can multiply this with 2, multiply this with 5 times 5 times 2. Do you see? Whatever I'm multiplying in the bottom, I have to multiply on the top too. So 5 times 2 is 10 and 5 times 2 is 10. So it's going to give me the same denominator, which is 10. So I can say a common denominator is 10. I'm sorry, 10. A common denominator is 10. Now how do I solve this? Butterfly. 3 times 2 is 6. 5 times 1 is 5. Now if you have same denominators, we did this in the previous window. If we have same in the previous video, if you have same denominators, then you know that you just simply subtract, or you know 6 is a greater number, like 6/10 is bigger fraction than the 5/10. Okay, so when I do this, it's going to give me 1/10 when I subtract. Okay, again, I don't have any common denominators. I can make a denominators here, or I can multiply top and bottom with some numbers as far as I can get the denominator exactly the same. So what is the least common denominator here? It's 18. The least common denominator is 18. So I'm going to say 18 plus 18. Now butterfly, 8 times 6 is what? No, it's not that. If the least common denominator is 18, then you know 9 and 18 you divide, it's going to give me 2. 2 times 8 is 16. That's how I do the fractions. You divide 18 and 6, it's going to give me 3. 3 times 5 is 15. Multiply. And I have exactly the same denominator, so I can just add the numbers, which will give me 16 plus 15 is going to give me what? 16 plus 15. 5 and 6 is 11 and 31. 31 over 18. And you know 31 over 18, if we simplify it's further, 13 over 18 is improper fraction, which means that the numerator is bigger. If that's the case, then you can divide and change them into a mixed number. So the mixed number is going to be 1/13 over 18, and you can use a calculator for this, and I'm going to show you how to do it. Now this one, I already know I can change them into improper fractions, and then I can find the least common denominator and figure it out. So what is the least common denominator in here? That's 6. Okay, so that's 6 plus 6. Now I already, if that's a 6, then 2 times 1 is 2, 3 times 1 is 3, and the whole numbers that I have at the side, this stays the same, 3 and 1. So when I solve this, it's going to give me 6, 5, and 4. You see, I added 3 and 1, which is 4. I added 3 and 2, which is 5. 6 was least common denominator, it stays there. And what I did, I multiplied 2 and 3. It's giving me 6. When that's the case, you multiply these denominators, then you can just simply cross multiply. You can cross multiply. 2 times 1 is 2. 1 times 3 is 1. Over here, I didn't cross multiply because I didn't multiply 9 times 6. I didn't say 9 times 6 is 54. If I would use a 54, I would do 8 times 6 plus 5 times 9. But I literally found my least common denominator, which is 18. Okay. When multiplying or dividing fractions, you must turn any mixed numbers, into improper fractions, into improper fractions. First, that's the first thing you should do. To multiply fractions, multiply across the top, multiply straight across, or multiply across the top, to get the new top number. Then multiply across the bottom, then multiply across the bottom to get the new bottom number. Now, to divide fractions, use the KFC rule. KFC rule when you're dividing two fractions. Like for example, I'm dividing, let's see, if I'm dividing 2/3 divided by 4/5, something like that. It's two fractions that I'm dividing, and that's the rule you use. K means keep the first fraction. Keep the first fraction the same. Flip the second fraction. F means flip the second fraction, which means reciprocal I'm talking about. C, change the division sign to a multiplication. And multiply. Okay, so I'm going to show you what I mean by KFC, like as an example. If you guys pay attention, keep this is example that I'm going to give you, okay, the one I have right there already, 2, 3 divided by 4/5. Now, if that's the case, they said keep the first fraction the same, so I'm going to keep that fraction the same. Flip the second fraction like reciprocal, that's the second fraction, and reciprocal means 5/4. Okay, that's called reciprocal, or you flip. Then change the division sign to multiplication. Here we go. And multiply straight across like this. 5 times 2 is 10. 3 times 4 is 12. And you can simplify this further. That's a proper fraction. And you go from there. That's what I mean. Okay, then follow the rules for multiplication. So I'm going to follow the rules to do the multiplications. Okay, let's try. This one is, I have to change this into, what is it called? Improper fraction. I have to do this. So 4/5 is going to stay as a 4/5 times 7 times 1 is 7, multiply, right? 7 times 1 is 7 plus 3 is 7, 8, 9, 10. So 10/7. And since I got multiplication, you straight across multiply. 4 times 10 is 40. 5 times 7 is 35. I can simplify this further by dividing by 5. I can do divide by 5. Divide by 5. Divide by 5. So 40 divided by 5 is going to give me 8. And what is this? 35 divided by 5 is going to give me 7. So 8/7. And this is, you can tell, improper fraction. So I can change this into a mixed number. When you change it into a mixed number, like you divide 8 by 7, it's going to give me 1 whole number and 1/7. Proper fraction and a whole number. There you go. Divide this. There is no mixed number or anything, so I'm just going to multiply straight across. 8 times 2 is 8 times 2 is 8 times 2 is 16. 9 times 3 is 27. And you can tell these numbers, this is a proper fraction, the numerator is smaller, and I cannot do anything to change it into a mixed number, because mixed number only is the improper fraction you can do, change it into a mixed number. Improper fraction means when your numerator is larger number, then you can change that. This one, I have to change this to the normal fraction, like an improper fraction, and then we go and divide, multiply. So 9 times 1 is going to give me 9. 9 plus 2, 9, 10, 11. 11/9. times 3 over 10. Straight across, multiply. 3 times 11 is going to give me 33. 9 times 10 is going to give me 90. Can I simplify this? Yeah, this is a proper fraction, smaller numerator. So you can divide this by 3 and you can divide this also by 3. The answer is going to be 11 over 30. And this is a proper fraction. You are not changing into a mixed number. Remember, when the numerator is bigger, improper fraction, then you can change it to a mixed number, unless you can do anything. This one, I'm dividing two fractions. So keep KFC method, okay? Keep the first fraction. Second fraction, you flip, reciprocal. Change the division into multiplication and straight across. So 3 times 11 is 33. 6 times 8 is going to give me 48. You can simplify this further by 3. You can divide this by 3. You can divide this by 3. So it's going to give me, the answer is going to be 33 divided by 3 is going to give me 11. And 48 divided by 3, I mean, I should have a division 3 here, ignore that. 48 divided by 3 is gonna give me 16, and done. This one, I have to change this into a fraction, improper, and then we go from there. 3 times 2 is 6, 6 plus 2 is 7, 8, and 4 divided by 9 is gonna stay 4 divided by 9. Now, how do I do division? Keep the first one as it is, flip the second one, and multiply. So 4 times 3 is 12, 9 times 8 is 72. So 12 over 72. Now you can simplify this. You can plug it in the calculator. It's a proper fraction. The numerator is smaller. You can simplify. So I'm going to divide this by 12 and divide this by 12. I mean, you can pick any number. You are going to end up what I'm doing right now. So it's 1 over 6. The answer. Okay, so this is what it is. To add, subtract, multiply, divide a fraction and a decimal, you're going to have change the fraction into a decimal. Change the fraction into a decimal. And follow the rules for decimals. Okay. Now let's, I think that's the last one we have. And you can also use a calculator to answer some of the questions. And I can show you some questions on the calculator to see how we can use a calculator to answer all of those. So I'm going to go and check another page. And let me write some questions here, okay? And then we will use a calculator here. I have 3/4. I have 3/4 plus 7/9. Okay. Least common denominator is not this. I mean, I don't have the common denominator. I don't have the common numerator either. I don't have anything. So we can find the least common denominator. You can multiply 9 and 4, which will give me 36. So it's going to give me 36. I'm just going to make one whole fraction, 36. Then you cross multiply. 9 times 3, 27. 4 times 7, 28. So you add these numbers. It's going to give me 27 plus 28, so 15. And 555 over 36, and this is improper fraction because the numerator is bigger. If that's the case, change it into a mixed number. So how would I change this into a mixed number? Now I'm going to use a calculator and I'll show you. These are the calculator questions, so you know how to do that one. You divide 55 divided by 36 and make sure that you get not the decimal answer. I'm asking for a mixed number. So let's go to the calculator and I'll show you how to do that. Now, watch this. I have 55 divided by 36. 55 divided by 36. Do you see the answer is in decimal? And I said I don't want decimal. I want a mixed number. You can change that to mixed number. Now, pay attention closely. Do you see all these green stuff that's written on each like button thingy. Do you see that? All of them are green. So when you need those green ones, you need to press the second first before you click any of those, okay? So I'm going to press second, and since I need a mixed number, do you see I have a fraction, 55. Do you see N over D? That means fraction, and I'm changing into a mixed number. So I have to press this button, second in this, and you enter one more time. And it's going to give me 119 over 36. So my answer is up here 119 over 36, and you can change that like that. Okay, let's do one more example, and I'm still using a calculator. -4, it's a mixed number. 2/3, I have plus 6 to 17. And if we are not using a calculator, you know I have to change this into an improper fraction, like 4 times 3 is 12, 12 plus 2 is 14, -14 over 3, plus I do the same thing here. But since I want to show you the calculator, so let's go back to the calculator and plug this in exactly the way it looks. Guys, if you plug in any question in the calculator like the exactly it looks, there is no way you can get it wrong. So, but make sure if I have something like this, then I don't need a parentheses. But if I am doing like 2/3, just make it in a parentheses, like divide 4/5 or something. It will help you. But this one is okay. I'm not putting in a calculator in a parentheses. Go back to calculator. If you see this, I cleared it, and I'm gonna plug in -4 as a whole number 2/3. So let's see, we have a negative sign up here, and I have a mixed number. Okay, so I'm gonna press the mixed number. If you pay attention, this one it says fraction to mixed number and mixed number to fraction. This one say fraction to decimal. Now this number as a mixed number, the green one, this means you can just click that and it will give you the mixed number right there. So I have 4, and then I can go back. That was 2, in the bottom that was 3, and you move the cursor again, the blinking thing, you move it again to the right by pressing this button. Now I need another mixed number, so second in this mixed number again. I need to have a plus sign there, I'm sorry. Okay, there. So this one is 6, and I can go back there, that was 2, in the bottom it was 17, and then move the cursor, enter. It's going to give me 74 over 51. Now I need my answer in mixed numbers. So because you know 74 is a bigger number numerator, so I can change this into a mixed number. How do I change it? I don't have to do anything. I have to press the calculator. You see, this is a fraction, and I'm changing into a mixed number. So I have to press this one, second in this, and enter. It's going to give me 123 over 51. And go back. This is what the answer is, 123.51. 23.51. That's my answer for that one. So you can use the calculators to answer the questions like that, whether it's a division, multiplication, or anything like that, okay? But make sure, always, if it's the denominator is bigger, change it into a mixed number. If the denominator is, the numerator is bigger, change it into a mixed number, like it's improper. But if for example, it's 36 over 55, this is proper fraction because numerator is smaller. It's proper fraction, then you can change it into a decimal, or maybe just leave it alone or simplify. So these are the questions that we have, guys, and then see you in the next video. Thank you. Bye.